My little old shop's barely big enough for the old welding car. Look how close it comes up there too.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you a couple things that I've learned over the years about running a lift and bigger tires on my welding car, including how to replace the rear studs and how to properly torque them in hopes that it doesn't happen again. Keep in mind, I'm a professional welder and a professional coffee drinker, not a professional mechanic, so you may have to research some details on your own. Also, at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you whether or not I plan on putting a lift and tires on my next welding truck, why I would or why I wouldn't, depending on what I'm going to be using my welding rig for. So stay tuned, grab you some coffee, and enjoy the video.
Today, we are going to change some rear wheel studs. Self-inflicted problem that I've had over the years because of wheel spacers. Years ago I made a video about a lift and if it's necessary for pipeline.
Funny enough, I just went back and watched that video, and in that video I said that I hadn't had much trouble at all with my spacers. That was in 2018 if I remember right. So at that time of that video, I had only had my lift on this truck for 3 or 4 years if I remember right. So it's just a nod for me. It's a nod to what I've learned over the years. So that's one of the reasons I'm excited, even more excited now, to post this video and share with you the things I've learned over the years about having a lift and tires on my truck.
And in my opinion, it is nice for pipeline, but it's not worth all the rear studs that I've replaced. This will be the 3rd time that I've broke rear wheel studs on this welding car.
But the good news is, this time I reached out to a good friend of mine. His name is Mitchell Perry. Some of you, those of you that follow along, you know him, you've met him. I helped him on a pipe fence job not long after I got laid off from my last pipeline job. And he's a real meticulous guy and does a lot more research than I do. He's intelligent and he's meticulous, I guess you could say. And I texted him and said, hey, do you run spacers? And if you do you have trouble with them breaking? He said, no, but I've got a system, is what he called it. Pretty much just the proper torquing, but I'll share that with you later in the video when we get to that point.
And I want to take this moment to thank a buddy of mine that, for one, gave me my first pipeline opportunity. His name's Michael Sayre. For two, we were working in North Dakota back in 2014, I believe, and the first time my wheel studs broke, he showed me how to replace them because it's something that I had never done before, and he showed me how to do that. So thankfully for him, he showed me how to do this, and I'm going to show you in case you get into pipeline or just driving a dually and want to know how to replace your rear studs by yourself. You won't be as hesitant, and you'll be more confident because you've seen it done right here. You got 16 new studs. We're just going to replace 8 of them today on this passenger side. First thing we need to do is take these wheels off. And now, because I run these spacers, these are 2-inch steel spacers, my impact socket doesn't fit in there, so I gotta use a regular socket. Now, next thing we do is take these bolts out, and the whole axle shaft will come out. A little bit of oil here and there, And then we'll be able to, if we got to take a nut off in there, we'll find out in a minute, but, and then pull this off and drive these old ones out, put all the new ones in, put everything back together, check the fluid, yada, yada, yada. Now, next thing we'll do is remove this clip ring right here and then undo this nut. This thing with all these notches in it right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notches. That's a nut. It'll unscrew and then we'll be able to pull this whole assembly off here. That way these will come all the way out. Because right now they can't come all the way out. That's the whole reason we're having to pull the shaft and everything. Because right now if you drive them out, they'll just hit this back here. And while you're in here, it's always a good idea to check the brake pads. Alright, so to get this clip out of here, I'm going to take me a pair of needle nose pliers. Just like so. A little, I forget what they call this. It's a piece of square stock is what I would call it, but it goes, they call it a key, I think, but it goes right in there to keep that nut from spinning back and forth. And this ring is what keeps the key pin or whatever in there. And now that we got both of them out, I'm going to try real careful not to lose them, and then we're going to spin this off to here. Every time I do this, I think about old Michael Sarah. He's the one who taught me how to do this. Oh, and by the way, there's a bearing in here too. Well, hootin' tootin' Fort Newton. I done broke my cobalt ratchet breakover. It's one of these jobs. I've had this thing for a few years really, and I carried it in my toolbox, but obviously it's just not that quality. I don't know why it broke. I gotta get this socket off here, but see? Anyway, what I was trying to do when I broke this was an important step that I forgot to share, which is taking this whole brake caliper off by loosening this up here 13/16, 13/16, and they are tighter than I'll get out. Impact won't get it, that cobalt breakover won't get it. But anyway, once we do get this off, this whole caliper will slide off here, and there's bolts right in this, run right through here on the back side of this that we got to unbolt to get this off, and then we can drive these out. I already got my bearing out, my outside bearing, and I set all that stuff up here out of the wind of the fans. Try to keep dust off of the axle shaft and dust off of this. This is the bearing that come out of it. Dust off all these parts best I can. So anyway, we're fixing to figure out a different situation to get this off here. The old cheater done the trick. The old cheater. Alright, this is what we've got. Them are the bolts right in there that we need to take loose. This is what this guy looks like. There's the caliper sitting on the stand. Emergency brake pads right here. Alright, now we'll just take a hammer and beat these studs out of here and drive the new ones back in. I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing right here. Probably be a good idea to replace whatever this is. Alright, check and make sure these are the same length as the old ones. Good work. Good work. Brand or new. Alright, I'll just put it all back together.
Right here, I do recommend that you look up the proper tightness. Everybody has a different opinion, but from the little that I've dealt with on trailer hubs and stuff, and so my shade tree mechanic advice is to tighten it enough to where your wheel spins freely. Pretty much right as your wheel spins freely is where you want it, but you don't want it too loose to where the wheel wobbles back and forth. I hope that makes sense. But like I said, you may want to do your own research here. And right before I put the axle shaft back in, as you can see here, I'm putting a silicone gasket around the edge of the end of this axle shaft. And as far as putting the bolts back in, I did look up the proper torque of this, but I don't remember what it was. So again, I would recommend looking up the proper torque of your bolts here on your axle shaft also.
All right, we've got our inner dual in. We're gonna put our spacer on. Alright, so my buddy Mitchell said, he actually said you want hub-centric spacers. So I'm technically already messing up because I don't have hub-centric spacers. So I'm not doing his full recommendation, so if this doesn't work, it's because I didn't get hub-centric spacers, whatever that means. But, after you have hub-centric spacers, he said, snug the lug nuts up and then torque them to 75 pounds the first round, 75 foot-pounds, and then the second round 130 foot-pounds, and then do the same thing with the outside dual, and then drive 200 or 300 miles, pull the outside dual off, check and make sure these that we're fixing to tighten are 130 foot-pounds, and do the same thing when you put the outer dual back on. So that's his system. He says by doing those couple of things, he don't have issues with studs breaking like I have. This is the third time I've broke studs. Usually I don't find out that they're broke until my the whole, both duals are wobbling. So found them early this time, which is good news.
As most of you know, I'm a huge fan of learning, so I don't regret running big tires, lift, and spacers on this welding truck because of everything that I've learned out of the deal. I've learned how to replace rear studs. I've learned how to properly torque them. So a lot of good came from it, but on my next welding truck, I most likely won't be putting a lift and tires. Most likely probably just a leveling kit if it needs it, and maybe some like, I don't know, I'm thinking like all-terrain tires. I'm not sure on the tires yet. All that to say is I don't think I'm gonna be running a lift and bigger tires, or much bigger anyway. Definitely not a lift on my next welding truck. One of the reasons is because I'm not pipelining right now, but even if I was to go pipelining, because I do plan on pipelining at least a little bit more, like I just enjoy it too much, I would like to go back out on a pipeline or two. And if I did, it would work just fine. I worked with a couple of older guys. Those of you that have followed, you know, I've interviewed one of them at least. A couple of interviews I've had on the YouTube channels over the years, but and they've all not had lifts and stuff. You don't have to have a lift. I still think they're cool. I still think it looks nice. I kind of envision having a lift on my 95, you know, but it's not my everyday driver. Maybe not. I'm not sure. I'm really growing into that phase of my age, if you will. The more practical, like I want to be able to fill up my welding machine by standing on the ground. I don't want to have to climb up on my truck just to put fuel in my welding machine. I want to be able to reach in my ice chest for cold water without climbing on the back of my truck. Just a lot of things like that is why I'm not, most likely probably not going to put a lift and tires on my next welding truck. And what I recommend to those of you who are just getting started is to prioritize business knowledge and experience over what your welding car looks like, your welding truck. I like saying welding car, that's fun. Prioritize the business over what your stuff looks like, because although it is handy to have a lift, it obviously looks cool too, and that's one of the reasons why I put a lift on this truck whenever I, you know, built this welding truck or whatever. I wanted a certain look, you know, it looks cool. Again, I'm not sure if I would trade all of it because I learned a lot from it, you know, there's a reason things happen. So not saying I would trade it, but I'm saying if I was 20 years old, like if I'm talking to you and you're 20 years old right now or 18 or whatever, I would recommend prioritizing business knowledge over the looks of your welding truck, because you can still have a clean welding truck and something that is presentable, but not have a lift and extra maintenance and extra wear and tear and extra issues, maintenance, broken studs. You can still have something that looks nice and well put together without a lift, big tires, and more trouble because of it. So, but I do recommend the business knowledge, because if you can prioritize business and look at your welding truck as a business and learn everything you can about business and leadership and how to properly build a foundation for your business and prioritize cash flow and less expense, aka a lift is an expense, an unnecessary expense in my opinion. Also prioritize knowledge and investing in yourself. Those things will allow you to grow a strong business to be able to have a lift and tires on your welding trucks if you decide to scale. And you don't have to, but I'm just saying, if you build a business with a foundation, that will allow you to have these nicer and cooler things, and your business be able to afford it because you've calculated all this in, because you had this vision for your business. But you gotta slow down enough to focus on the foundation of your business and prioritize the right things. Not only will you be able to afford to purchase these nicer trucks and nicer accessories for your business vehicles and such, you will have the option to hire out the maintenance, maybe have a full-time mechanic, or maybe hire out, the broken studs I just replaced. You wouldn't even have to do that because you built a business that was focused on cash flow, making enough money to support the business that you're able to afford those breakdowns. Because whether you have a lift and tires or not, you're going to have breakdowns, you're going to have maintenance that needs to be done. So you're going to need to be able to have a business set up to be able to afford those kind of unexpected expenses. Now I'll stop right there because there's several different avenues we could take as far as business model. Because I'm saying all this, I'm trying to hit on different business models, because at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with working on your own stuff, but that's just a different business model, in my opinion, with the little I've learned over the years. But anyway, I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. If you did learn something, share it with me in the comments. If you have questions, share those with us in the comments as well. We don't only welcome questions, we also welcome advice and knowledge. A lot of the older, more experienced people have commented their advice in the comments, and I absolutely love that. I welcome that because I learn from it, and I hope others do as well. Whether it's advice or questions, feel free to comment down below. I hope you have an awesome weekend, an awesome morning, an awesome afternoon, an awesome evening, and remember, learn something every day. Cheers.